Marco DeLuca built an empire feared by everyone, but the one thing he could never escape was betrayal. Tonight, the truth about Elena, his family, and the child he never knew he had will finally be revealed. This is the final chapter of Mafia Betrayal. The dining room fell into chaos the moment the recording ended. Luca's chair slammed against the floor as he stood up. "You think a recording will destroy me?" he shouted. Marco didn't move. His voice stayed calm. "You already destroyed yourself!" But Luca suddenly smiled. A slow, dangerous smile. Then he snapped his fingers. The mansion lights went out. Gunshots exploded from the hallway. Marco's men rushed into the room as bullets shattered the windows. Luca had come prepared. Men loyal to him stormed the mansion from outside. The DeLuca home had turned into a battlefield. Marco grabbed a gun from beneath the table. His father stood frozen. "You're starting a war inside our own house!" the old man shouted. Marco looked at him coldly. "You started it 3 years ago." Gunfire echoed through the mansion halls. Marco's men fought Luca's soldiers room by room. Glass shattered, furniture overturned, blood stained the marble floor. Through the chaos, Luca escaped into the courtyard. Marco followed. Rain poured down as the two brothers faced each other again. "You should have stayed loyal," Luca sneered. Marco raised his gun. "You should have stayed human." A single gunshot cracked through the storm. Luca collapsed to the ground. The war inside the mansion ended in seconds, but the real danger was only beginning. Hours later, Marco stood in his office surrounded by silence. Victor rushed in. "Boss, we have a problem." Marco looked up. "What is it?" "Luca sent men out before he came here." Marco's stomach tightened. "Where?" Victor hesitated. "The coast, the safe house." Marco's blood ran cold. Luca hadn't just planned to attack the mansion. He had sent killers after Elena. Marco grabbed his coat. "Prepare the jet." For the first time in years, Marco DeLuca was afraid he might be too late. Hundreds of miles away, the quiet coastal house sat under the moonlight. Inside the room, Elena sat beside a small crib. The baby was sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the war being fought for his life. Elena gently touched the baby's tiny hand. "Your father will fix this," she whispered. Outside, a black SUV slowly rolled down the empty road. 3 armed men stepped out. They moved quietly toward the house. Inside, the old woman who owned the house looked through the window. Her eyes widened. Elena. But it was already too late. The front door exploded open. Gunshots shattered the silence of the night. Elena grabbed the baby from the crib and held him tightly. Footsteps thundered through the house. One of Luca's men kicked open the bedroom door. He raised his gun, but before he could fire, a bullet tore through the window behind him. The man dropped instantly. Another shot followed, then another. Outside, black SUVs screeched to a stop. Marco stepped out, gun in hand. His men moved across the property like a storm. Within minutes, the attackers were finished. Marco ran inside the house. "Elena!" She stood in the hallway holding the baby, alive, safe, slowly. Elena placed the baby back in the crib. He was still sleeping, completely unaware of the gunfight that had just saved his life. Marco walked closer and looked down at him. So small, so fragile, yet powerful enough to start a war. Marco whispered softly, "I'm sorry it took me so long to find you." Morning arrived slowly over the ocean. The storm had finally passed. Marco stood on the balcony looking at the endless water. Elena joined him quietly. "Is it finally over?" she asked. Marco nodded. "My brother is dead. My father is in police custody. The empire is mine." Elena studied his face. "But—" Marco looked back toward the room where the baby was sleeping. "But the empire almost destroyed everything I care about. For the first time in my life, I'm thinking about walking away." Elena looked surprised. "The Mafia," Marco nodded slowly. "He deserves a life that isn't built on fear." Inside the room, the baby moved slightly in his sleep. Marco watched him quietly. Then a small smile appeared on his face. Because the most feared mafia boss in the country had finally learned something. Power means nothing, but family means everything, and anyone who ever threatens them again will face a man with nothing left to lose.